positions, not because of the work that was assigned to me, but it was about the people. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I was visible. I didn't feel like my ideas were important enough. I felt ashamed at times. I felt like I had to fit into a box. I'm Asian American, a woman, and it was hard because I'm outspoken. I want change. I want action. And it was hard in my journey. And what really helped me personally, but each of us is going to have our own direction. And so I just really want to highlight just a little bit of my lived experience and kind of open up the conversation. So what worked for me was finding my champion, my mentor, because I had a lot of interest. And trust me, once you get to know me, you know I'm an idea type of person and I have a lot of interest. But ultimately, when I started to self-reflect, it was my core values of helping those that didn't have a voice or access to the table. And I checked in with my mentor, I mean, to the point where they said, not this month, maybe next month, Christina, because I still have to ponder what we talked about. And so I decided with my mentor's guidance, and it was, I would say, about 26 years ago with Marcia Tatiana Long, who was the previous director of gender administration. My heart, my soul. Lorraine Lee was my mentor at the lottery. And honestly, I didn't want to sell out tickets because I didn't feel like that was part of my core belief, my value. I just didn't like people spending money with the hopes of winning. I'm like, you can invest in that, you know? So I did an action plan. As I mentioned earlier in my introduction, my background was behavioral psychology with a minor in Asian studies, ethnic studies, and sociology. And technology was always something in the forefront because I considered myself as part of the Oregon Trail generation. People say that's Generation X or Y, and I said, no, it's Oregon Trailblazer generation because I died so many times in dysentery, and it's like, oh my gosh. And honestly, you see me speaking today, but I had to go through an immense process of speech therapy because at 6 years old, I was learning an American. My first language was Korean. And I had to take time to learn how to craft, how to speak, how to tell a story. It was so paralyzing for me. But with what I wanted to say is you got to take the courage for risk and change and get with mentors that can actually support and champion you. And when I created the action plan, I found all the things that was scary for me. Public speaking was number one. How do I get into an industry that I have no idea about? I have no idea with programming. I have no interest in programming, by the way. But my mentor shared with me that there was project management. They also told me about, human resource. So honestly, I spent 17 years of my state career as an HR generalist. And I always supported, loved the HR generalist, but I noticed that the HR professionals didn't have reputation of me. And was trying to educate, why is equity so important? How do we make people feel belonging or valued? And so I'm like, okay, let me tap into this HR world, but still use IT. So again, I used a lot of drafts to create my action plan. And I encourage you, when you're transitioning, don't take the first job that you see. Really think about what you want and what you want to envision your career to be, and bring in your family, because sometimes when you change jobs, it's not going to be linear. There was times that I had to take a voluntary demotion or entry level, and that impacted me financially. And so, I had to make those crucial decisions of where I wanted to be. So create an action plan, work with a mentor. And then in my workshop, I was going to open. So tell us, what is your career path? So if there's anybody that wants to unmute themselves, please feel free. We're such a small group. So, if you have a question that you wanted to kind of ask, please do that. I was trying to make this more of an interactive breakout, so please join me. And if you're not comfortable in speaking out in a large crowd, I understand. Like I said, I had to work on my speech and presentation. Please put it in the chat. I'm not one of these presenters that's all about PowerPoint. I'm all about interacting and get to what you want. So again, create that action plan, find a mentor. When you do an action plan, just think about what's important in your life. What aligns to your core values? Identify some of the areas that may be working in your current career. And then also identify what's not working either, because that's going to be your leverage in your next career. Find find what is your future career, and maybe ask, this is the hard part, is ask for an informational interview. So I want to extend an offer to everyone here today. If you're interested in getting an IT, reach out to me. We can put my email in. You can reach out and I can give you some information of all the vast job families within, just so you can get an insight of what each field kind of really takes to be successful. Also, when you do your action plan, write down your natural talents. They're not in job posting, but if you're somebody who is courageous or curious, or somebody who has that agility to learn new information, that's your talent. Tap into that. I want to really express that that's not in the job posting, but those are in the competencies of the position. So really tap into that, identify that, work with your mentor to see how you can fulfill your future career. Also, like, let me just mention, you got to determine, are you willing to take a pay cut? Because sometimes when you change careers, you might have to go into entry, but work with your family. Also, sometimes some of the career paths requires education. And when I say education, it's more of a certificate, right? So find opportunities to utilize some free services, or if you're working in state government and you obtain permanent status, you might have an opportunity for tuition reimbursement. And you really tap into school grants too to help you in that career field. And check in with your counselor too. They might be able to help you to get some credits for certain classes. So really tap in. You have a lot of resources. So tap into your counselor. And remember, if you're looking at IT, I am a resource. I am going to be your network here. Also,
so Christina,
yes.
I just
do you
wanted
have
to
questions?
be sure. Yeah, there are two comments already, and I see Nicole's hands is up. So I just want to make sure that you can let Nicole ask a question, maybe.
Yes, please. I got so engaged because I was looking. Please go ahead and ask questions. I didn't see anything else.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank
Nicole.
you. Hi, Nicole Miller here. I think it's actually the color of the raised hand. It's really difficult to see. Like the cartoon raised hands are easy to see on Zoom screens, but when we use a color, it's hard. It's harder to see.
Okay.
So my question is, in the mentorship relationships that you developed, you mentioned that you had one at the lottery and one somewhere else. Were those formal mentorship programs that were offered through your work, or were those informal relationships that you developed and then it turned into mentoring?
There was no formality when I started in state government with mentoring.
Okay.
With all transparency, I think all agencies are looking to formalize that, but I took opportunities. And let me just go back how the mentorship originally happened for me. I think that's going to be helpful. I was in college and my mom told me I needed to get a job. And the only job that I could see myself doing is a night custodian work, because that's what my mom did. And so we went into GA and I came in wearing my beautiful dress at the time, doing my hair. I'm going to meet with the personnel officer because that's what they called it back in the day. And I saw my mom talking to a gentleman and I had no idea. My mom's very friendly. She talks to everybody. And he asked me, so you're Sanyu's daughter? I said, yes, I am. I'm proud to be Sanyu and I'm here to apply for a custodian job. And he asked, are you interested in working in office? I'm like, oh no, those are office people. And he says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I just got to get money for college because I got to help my family. My parents sacrificed a lot to put me in school. I got scholarships, but didn't pay anything. And I said, I really want to help my family because I don't want them to sacrifice anymore. So I wanted to take a job. And if it was an opportunity for me to work with my mom, I'm going to do that. But that's all I knew that was available for me at the time. And I was a freshman in college at Central. And lo and behold, he was the director of GA. And he says, you know what? I want you at the table, at my table. So it was so informal, but he loved my energy of that. I was so proud to be a custodian. I really was. And he just wanted to tap in that energy. That's why I said, shine your natural talents. Every job is important. And what happened is he connected me with himself as an informal mentor. And then he left, but he connected me with the next director and goes, you need to tap into her. We cannot lose out. She has the energy, she has the desire, and she is very humble. And so Marsha reached out to me to offer an internship the following year. And of course, I'm going to say yes, because I was going to help my family. And she created this mentorship with me. So it was really informal, but it all started with me being just proud of what I was applying for. And then when I went and graduated college, I wanted to go get my master's in urban psychology. And my parents said, no, they couldn't afford that. That's a lot of money. So I tapped into Marsha and she helped me network and got a job at the lottery as a clerk typist that also did Korean translation. So really tap in. If you're multilingual, tap into that. That is what we need to celebrate. And when I joined the lottery, that's where Lorraine Lee, who is the sponsor, executive sponsor for the Washington Immigrant, became my mentor, but it was all informal because I was this young kid not knowing how to navigate professional life. And she's tapped into that. I was honest, but I had a lot of energy and I wanted to learn. I wanted to make an impact to communities. And then when Lorraine left and Merritt Long was the director of the lottery, he was also my informal mentor. And he wanted me to, get a career in like a lottery rep. And that wasn't my desire. That wasn't my value. I wanted to get out of the lottery. But he helped me bridge that maybe HR was a place for me. So these were all formal things. And if I didn't have my champions there, I don't know where I would be today. I wouldn't be here, I could tell you, to speak my truth and that. I am so happy to have some more formal. So fast forward 20 years, there's more formal mentor, and I am at the forefront of that. I want to help people that need help and just trying to find steps to their career path. Because some of us, especially in the immigrant community, we think the jobs that are available, but it's not our dream job. And so really tapping into that and formalizing. So great question. Sorry, I had to tell my story because that's the truth. There was no formal mentoring.
No, I appreciate that.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that because it just speaks to the evidence around internships and mentoring programs and just how valuable they are. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking the question and for sharing all that information there, Christina.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure that Mario also have an opportunity to share a little bit about your comments on this topic because it's a very important topic for you too, I know, right?
Compassionate. Yes, please, Mario, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Just amazing hearing, Christina, from your experience. And absolutely, it's about one thing that I heard is also humility. Being able to be humble in maybe that's not the specific job that you want currently that you're in, but you're able to go ahead and learn something from that. It's very important to also feel that the company that you're working with, that the values that they carry, the environment, how you feel when you go into work, that's also very important because you might not have the perfect company, but you might have a team that makes you feel great about going to work. And in every organization, in every job, there's HR departments, there's IT departments, there's accounting, there's resources, there's outreach, there's a whole bunch of different other jobs within that you can move within those organizations and learn from. So I think that's very important, the culture. And another thing is sometimes a little bit of my background, about 20 years ago, I worked with migrant seasonal farm workers and first generation students. And also we had some students that had never worked at all. And some people that said, well, I don't know how to do anything. Well, do you cook for yourself or do you cook for your family? Yes, I'm a great cook. I make the best. Well, okay, that's a skill. It's a small skill, but it is a skill. It's important to someone. Do you know how to clean? Do you know how to organize? Do you take care of others? All those are little skills and they're transferable skills that can go into something else. Another thing is make sure that you jot down all the things that you've heard people say about you. Intelligent, quick thinker, teamwork, efficient, whatever it is that you hear often, write it down and then look at examples of how that is in your life so that when you go into an interview, you can draw on that and say, this is what I bring to the value. I'll tell you one little secret is that positions can be filled. You know, there's certain criteria that if it's an accountant, I need to know how to know numbers, how to, not make mistakes, basic things, right? And so we can hire anyone, but the thing that will get you the job is those extra things that Christina was talking about. What are those talents that you bring? What are those natural inborn talents that you have? And that's what you need to show and brighten up in your interviews, and practice when your interviews as well, so you're able to go ahead and say that. I've had interviews where people come in and they look great on paper, but they're not able to interview well. And of course, another panelist is going to talk about interviews and all that. But in terms of transition, just really, especially when you're young, look at the different things that you want to look at, and then go and do career exploration, because that might, I have had about 20 different jobs, and I am 44 years old. 20 jobs is a lot of jobs. I've worked from, I've worked at NASA at one point. I worked at Job Corps. I've worked everywhere. And why? Because I always wanted to see, well, what is it like working there? Where does it feel right? Where can I help people? And that's where wherever you fit in, when you feel that camaraderie, that and this is for anything, even in these work groups and in careers and committees, wherever you go, wherever you feel welcome and wherever you feel that energy, go there and check it out. Maybe that's not specifically what you'll learn, but you'll learn something from other people, and that's the important thing. Be humble, learn from other people, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all do, but learn from it and just grow from that. So hang in there. Things are going to get better, and just explore. And you have a great group of people here that will support you. Look for people that will add to your life, and just keep going forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. Maybe to bring Alana next, who is going to be speaking about that particular topic area. So if that's okay, can I bring you in at this time, Alana? Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. So it'll be myself and Genevieve. And also just want to welcome everyone here on the panel. Like, if there's something that you have to contribute to this conversation, I think it sounds like lots of you have been interviewing and hiring people for a lot of years. And so totally welcome your expertise here. I do want to share my PowerPoint. Just a second. Can you see my screen? No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, now it's going. Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna share portions of this because we're in a little bit different environment than originally anticipated, but
right.
The original purpose, what is the purpose of a resume? It's a quick glance synopsis of your education and experience for a prospective employer. If you're a very young person or a brand new worker and maybe you don't have any professional experience, I love what Mario was saying of like, grab those nuggets of what people have shared about you, grab those skills that you have out. Have you done babysitting? Have you done cooking for your family? Have you done those things? And summarize your skills, your talents, your accomplishments, share your personality, demonstrate your proficiency in any skill sets that you have. But I do want to highlight, like, it is a quick glance document. As someone who's been in human resources and in hiring for a lot of years, I think that when you're sitting down and creating a resume, it takes a lot of effort, right? Like, you spend a lot of time formatting and making it beautiful and putting, very intricate sentences down. And I think sometimes after all that effort, we have this idea that someone is going to sit down and really read our resume like a novel and just pay so much attention to every sentence that we've written. And honestly, that is often not the case, because hiring managers, HR professionals, recruiters, folks are reviewing so many resumes for so many positions that the purpose of a resume is really to stand out, to showcase your education, your experience, your skill set, in a really quick, easy to digest way. And so, like I said, I think that standards around resumes, standards around interviews are actively changing. But I think that that even maybe makes it harder for prospective employees who have to navigate both the old way and the new way at the same time. And so, you know, in my tenure, I've seen resumes change quite a bit and become more personalized. So I just kind of want to go through nuts and bolts here. Genevieve, is there anything you want to add about the purpose of a resume?
Hi. So just to kind of echo what Alana said, one of the things that a resume does is it's sort of like a picture of you at a glance, right? So, and especially wanting to make sure that it's not a cookie cutter document that you just slide into every application that you have. Be intentional about how you're going to present information, if it's for an internship versus maybe there's a specific job that you're looking for. So I think that it should really be almost kind of like if you think of it as like a trailer for a movie, you're going to be the sort of the main feature, right? And you want them to be intrigued by why they should invite you for a conversation. So think again about those key elements of who you are and why you're a good fit for not necessarily telling your life story, but really focusing on why you're interested in the position and why your specific experience really speaks to that position. So.
I love that metaphor. I'm borrowing that one. Thank you, Genevieve.
Okay.
So to your point, Genevieve, curate your content. When you're making your resume, remember that people will be looking at it quickly. But when you're creating it, what do you want people to think about you when they see your resume? Make sure, you know, sometimes we can say, oh, like the formatting doesn't really matter, or the font that I use doesn't really matter, the way, oh, this is kind of sloppy, or I didn't take care of that sentence. Like, it's okay, it's not a big deal. And to some extent that can be true, but remember that this is often a snapshot that someone is seeing about you. And so, and this is, your resume can act as a gatekeeper. It can open up the gate to invite you to the next step of a hiring process, to an interview, to an opportunity, to an internship. This is often the first little snippet that someone is seeing about you. So as you're creating it, think, what do I want people to think about me when they see this resume? And get specific. Certainly there may be an instance where you're at a job fair, or you're seeing multiple employers or folks who might host you for an internship, in which case you might need to have a more generic resume. But if you're applying for specific jobs, I would really challenge you to customize, even if it's only slight changes, your resume and cover letter to the job that you're applying for. What skills, experience, awards, education apply most to this specific position? And think about, what do I know about this position? What do I know about this organization? So for example, if I'm coming to the YMCA, I know that community is huge. I know that youth development is huge. And so maybe I want to include my time as the kids workshop captain at Home Depot when I worked there, and some of the time that I spent, you know, volunteering with youth in my local community, which maybe is not something I put on every resume, but is something that I think this specific organization and this specific position will care about. Genevieve, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was thinking about how, you know, the go-to and default template for a resume always is like the chronology, right? Chronological history of why you might be qualified. But I love the idea of like highlighting, thinking about, again, your relevant either personality aspects or the people, you know, the groups that you're affiliated with. Again, trying to tell that story of why you are, you know, a good fit, or somebody that should be worthwhile to invite into that space. I think one of the things it's hard for sometimes a young person to think about is like they don't have a lot of experience, so they feel like maybe one summer or a collection of summers doesn't feel like that the resume is thick enough or qualifiable enough. But like you were saying, maybe they can talk about the years of service that they participated through church, or maybe there's an academic club that they increasingly acquired leadership positions, like maybe they started out as a treasurer, became a vice president, and so forth. And all of those kind of show growth, show interest. And so again, not being so rigid about thinking that it only is a chronology of who you are, but really highlighting what's important to you and why that's a good match for a position or an internship you're looking at.
Absolutely. So resume templates, there's a million out there. There's a million different places you can get resume templates. I think they're totally fine to use. More and more I'm seeing photos added on resume templates. And so I just wanted to address that really quickly. It's totally a personal preference if you want to have your photo on your resume or not. I think it's fine. I would just say, please use unfiltered photos or really only very slightly filtered photos, like no extreme filters. You don't want to look like a totally different person on your resume photo. You don't want to have like Snapchat bunny ears on your resume photo. You want to make sure that it's a professional photo that looks like you. And then use photos that aren't distracting. So something that's simple. This is a great example of a simple photo. It's clear, there's a little personality in it. It's not, like this rigid professional headshot, which nothing wrong with those, but there's a little personality in it. I love that. I think it's Alice's headshot on the flyer. That's my favorite, that there's like a little personality in it. Love it so much. But photos that like there's not too much going on in the background, or there's nothing like I said, like bunny ears or something crazy filter, something that is work appropriate and not too distracting. And then I just wanted to address social media. So more and more employers are going to look at you on social media. So my recommendation is totally always to set your social media profiles to private so that you can really control who you share and don't share those personal sides of you. I do recognize that more and more young people are want to have a public facing profile. And so just being mindful that employers may see this and make sure that any content that you're putting out, you're fully comfortable having your employer look at, depending on the sector that you find yourself in. So if, say, for example, you're in education, if you're in nonprofit work, if you're in any work where you're working directly with youth, the chance not only that your employer, but maybe the clientele that you serve will find you on social media is pretty high. And so just making sure that your online presence is something that you are proud to affiliate with professionally as well as personally, and kind of curating the way that you share yourself in that way, I think is really important. And I think some employers, like even outside of LinkedIn, will just look and see kind of what kind of discretion are you using with your online presence. Mario, what do you want to share?
Just along the same lines, just one quick thing is also the emails that you use when you're applying to certain things. I've got some emails that say something like "hot mama" something, and I'm like, what? That's not professional. Make sure that you have a professional email, or just a standard email that doesn't draw any red flags for the person who's reviewing. Just something as simple as that. I would just trash the resume if I saw something like that. Just along the same lines of profile.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
also,
a great comment.
I'd also echo.
And go ahead.
I just also want to echo. Especially if you're changing jobs, making sure you're not using your current. If they're for some reason wanting to, that you're careful about also naming your resume document. Sometimes people attach resume documents and they haven't changed the name of a document, so maybe unfortunately it shows where you might have applied elsewhere. So being mindful of all of these things. To speak to also the social media, like it can be a useful tool depending on the sector, right? If you're applying to be a social media manager, right, at a maybe at a nonprofit or something. But like Alana said, make sure you are kind of using it as a portfolio. What would you want to share if you were brought into an interview and we're actually presenting your social media profile? Think of it that way. Think of it as being able to explain and justify what you're portraying there, because it has a powerful isn't a powerful tool to be able to augment, you know, your cover letter and your resume as well.
Great advice. I see Nicole's hands up too. So Nicole, do you want to say a few more words or have a question?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So can you speak to how putting a photo on a resume impacts equity in terms of hiring? Because I have concerns about putting photos on resumes simply because then we get to pick and choose what people look like when we're pulling them forward, but that could be totally off base. And so you're the expert. I would love to hear your opinion on photos on resumes. Like, I know it says add them or not, but how does it specifically impact equitable hiring?
Yeah, I think different organizations, and I, again, love to hear from anyone on the panel about this specifically, but so my thoughts here are, this is a trend that is gaining popularity. If you go into Microsoft, if you go into Canva, if you go into Adobe, more and more resume templates that you're going to grab have this space for a photo. And so I think by and large, more and more candidates may or may not select templates like that have photos on them. How they impact equity can depend on the organization. Like folks could use it to screen in more diverse candidates. They could use it to screen people out if they were, yeah, I mean, I understand your concern, and I think it could absolutely be used incorrectly. I think.
So the data is clear that if you have an ethnic sounding name, you're 50% less likely to even get an interview.
Right.
So if your name is ethnic and you're not going to get an interview, I just don't know if there's data around your picture also, because I've never heard any data about selecting in diverse candidates like that using. And so I think it's really frightening for equity hires in terms of, but again, this is just my gut feeling. I don't have any data to support it.
Right. And I think it's emerging because I think in this recent, like 2 to 3 year mark, there's been more and more companies really focusing their efforts on increasing diversity of all kinds within their workforce. And so this could be a tool for that. I think there's more and more organizations trying to do things like do blind screenings as well. So like if there's going to be resumes, if there's a photo, we're going to blank it out. We're going to blank out the name. We're going to blank out the specific college that they went to, so that anyone who's screening this application or this resume doesn't have any details to possibly have their biases show up there in that way. I think you're right to feel a concern about that. And I think it's going to depend on the organization. I saw Mario's hand up and Genevieve.
Yes.
Go, Mario.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say that one thing that I go by is, for example, if you're going to apply at careers.wa.gov for like a state employment department or something like that, it will say do not attach photos. And that's, I believe, is from a liability perspective, so that they can't be seeing, oh, well, I'm picking and choosing. So I would say that it would be safe that if it says not to put a photo, don't put a photo.
Sure.
I personally do not do. I was for photos, but then when I saw that, I said, well, yeah, from a liability perspective, I guess I would be better off as the organization not knowing and rather just seeing what's on there rather than having a photo to have implicit bias of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Genevieve?
I was going to say, yeah, definitely this is an issue that affects both the hiring office as well as the candidate, right? So I think on or for organizations, hopefully they are sort of self-scrutinizing and creating systems that are helping them reduce bias. But then as an applicant too, being mindful of, look for an equity statement, look for the ways, how are organizations presenting themselves as wanting to be an employer who is seeking diversity, inclusivity, and equity, and how can, and making sure that, you know, definitely presenting yourself in a way that will be a viable candidate for them. So I think it's going to take work on both ends, right, to make sure that that, you know, the way that we used to hire, the way that we used to apply, definitely needs to be changed. But yeah.
And I would say even with without a photo on a resume, I think at a certain level, most folks are encouraged in college and high school even, and in professional settings to have LinkedIn profiles that typically have photos associated with them. And so, you know, I think if somebody had a bad intent, they might be looking at things like that as well. Genevieve,
Thank you.
Oh, that was great.
Go ahead.
I want to be mindful that we have a bunch of other presenters still, so I'm going to kind of zoom a little bit. I do want to say one page only. If you've got to go 2 pages, use the back side, but nobody wants like a 5-page document for a resume. They won't read it and it will just waste your time. Really quick best practices: use an easy to read font. Like, make sure that this is accessible for someone who might have a visual impairment. I know sometimes we're like, oh, I just want to squeeze one more detail and one more thing. So we add columns and small fonts and make it tiny. You know, a reasonable size font that is non-serif, easy to read, not overcrowded, and nice and concise, so that someone who is looking at a lot of resumes at a glance can quickly understand what your skill set is. But do feel free to personalize it so that if I'm looking at 100 resumes, yours stands out to me. There's something specific about you and your personal uniqueness and passion that sticks out to me here. Interviews. So say your resume stands out, people invite you for an interview. When you show up, I think for each organization, there's going to be different specifics, but a big thing I think is be confident. Remember that you've been invited based on your application materials and your resume because they already think you're awesome and they want to get to know you better. And so come and be the expert that you are on you. Be honest. If the point of an interview is to understand your experience, the way you've processed things, your thoughts and your personality. So show up authentically. I think sometimes we have this idea that like, I have to show up the way I think they think I should show up. And you need to show up as you so that because you're also interviewing this organization. Is this a place you want to be? Is this a place you can be successful? Is this a place that aligns with your values? And then confidence is a great tool to help you get to calm and collected, right? Like, and I don't mean arrogance. I don't mean over full of yourself. Somebody mentioned humility earlier. I think that's really important, but confidence going in the door will help to kind of just regulate you physically so that you can be calm and collected and present well in your interview. And then understand the organization and the role that you're interviewing for is really important. Krisha?
Just
Go ahead,
wanted to
Krizia.
add to that, like when I first got interviewed with Lin, I always have like a tip or advice that it's just like a conversation because they are human. So I try to think of it so that I won't be less intimidated and less scared, because really the interview is not as frightening as it seemed to be, because yeah, they are looking for the specific skills or whatnot. And want to see if you are good for like certain roles of the organization or the company. But to make yourself feel confident, feel calm, it's best to think of, oh, they're just trying to get to know me and they're trying to have like a one-on-one conversation. Obviously, you can't like just have like a conversation like with your best friend. Obviously, not like that extent, but yeah, that's the best way I can like it helped me to be at ease when I had an interview with Lin, and yeah, and I'm here. So that's
Success.
a lot.
Yes. Thank you. That's very important. And I see Genevieve's hand is up too. So please go ahead.
I'm a big fan of alliterations. I love the confidence and the calmness. And I would also say curiosity. I think that people want to talk to people or want to hire people that are genuinely interested in being part of the organization. So don't worry about, are you funny? Are you clever? I think a more compelling presentation is someone who shows up because they want to know more about the organization, because they feel like it is something that speaks to them. So, no matter whether you're a first-time job person or if this is your 15th or 20th job, if you show that genuine interest, that is such a welcoming. Especially if you're a HR director and you've had to like sit through 7 different phone calls, right, or 20 different Zoom meetings. That person that shows curiosity, it's a memorable thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously you want to showcase your skills, but really for when you're sitting in interviews for a long time, you want to be the person that when you leave, people are like, oh, you remember that conversation? Like that was intriguing or compelling or fun, or you want to be memorable in a good way. Lin, I think I'm getting tight on time, right? Would it be better if I maybe hit one more slide and then send my presentation?
Okay. That sounds great. Okay. Thank you.
I do want to say, ask for what you need when you're in an interview. So if someone asks you a question and you didn't catch it or you missed part of it, it's totally okay to stop the person and ask them to repeat the question. It's okay to ask if you can have a paper copy of the questions to look at, if that's something that you need. If you need a minute, it's okay to say, wow, great question. Let me think about that for a moment. And pause rather than trying to fill the space with lots of, I hadn't thought of that. That can get really messy really quickly. And so I would say it is fine to let this either one person or panel that you're sitting with know what you need and communicate that during the interview. Like Krizia said, like this is a conversation. It's just some people in a room together. And then I would say bring questions of your own for the end. So again, back to that memorable piece, we're asking the same questions to candidates over and over and over again. And by and large, unless you demonstrate really that you like can't do the job or say something alarming, the way that you stand out is sharing your unique stories. And then by kind of extending the conversation when you bring your own questions. So I have a link to some questions that you can bring. I'll send that to Lin and she can share it out with those who came today. Okay. And then I would just recommend that those questions require more than a 1-sentence answer. So like, when will I hear back from you? Next Thursday. More than that questions to continue the conversation and just keep us connecting. Genevieve, is there anything you want to add about that?
One really, I mean, I'm sure lots of people have used this question. One of the things that's a really great question to kind of turn the tables on in an interview is asking the interviewer what they love most about working for XYZ. And I think the way they answered that is it can be a really revealing opportunity, because it could also naturally lead to follow-up questions. But I think hopefully for you as the interviewee, it's going to reaffirm for you why you wanted to apply for this position.
Absolutely. Maria.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
Just real quick, I'm sorry. I wanted to also, you mentioned being prepared, and part of being prepared is going into their website and looking what is their mission, what is their values. Mm-hmm. Look at the organization and who, look at as much of the information so that when you get to this asking 3 questions, you can say something like, I saw in your mission that it's this and this and this. And that's going to pique their interest and say, oh, they really took the time. And that also, talking about confidence, that helps you be at confidence of knowing what the company is about. And another quick trick is to show up early and kind of, if you're in the lobby, just kind of, your interview starts right at the parking lot. You might see the boss coming in and not know it, and that's who's going to interview you. I actually, when I interview people, I go outside and I interact with people to see how they might say something. Also, the receptionist is your best friend. Ask the receptionist some questions. Hey, how do you like working here? What are some things about how long have you worked here? They will tell you everything. I've chosen many careers just on how the interaction with the receptionist is. Because if the receptionist is all stressed out and doesn't want to be there, and oh, you don't want to talk to that person, I'm out. I don't even want to have the interview. So just be prepared, show up early, calm yourself down, and all the information that has been given to you is great. And also the questions that are going to be given to you, practice. Make sure to practice with your friends and family and have them ask you those questions, and you ask them the questions so that when you hear it, it's not the first time that you hear it, and you're able to say. Sometimes they say, tell me about yourself, and you're like, what do I say? What are some things that you can say about yourself? Well, I'm great at this, I'm great at that. So just practice with that so that you feel comfortable, and it's just the conversation. You're getting to know them as they're getting to know you. So really great information that was provided. Thank you.
Yeah, great suggestions there too. So at this point, I like to go next to Dora for the professionalism. If you are ready, Dora, I'm going to ping you next.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, so let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen here?
It's ready? Yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I heard earlier speakers talking about public speaking. So about language, language barrier, about being shy, about various like challenges. So all these are the challenges in professionalism, right? So when I actually took some time to think about this word professionalism. I did some research. I found there are many aspects to it. So generally, thinking about my career, last 10 plus years. So I'm just, this is my thoughts. So I do think professionalism involves several aspects or several elements. Particularly, I do think professionalism is a commitment to always like a personal growth. Personal growth and mindset, and also a mission. I heard someone speaking about the word vision, so value. And at the same time, we need a system how to implement the professionalism. So then later on, leadership is everywhere. Leadership, this word is already not about craftsmanship. It's about, people working together. So I'll just, from all these areas, I'll just do a little bit of what I my thoughts. Generally, personal growth in the current world, the professionalism, like personal growth, often involves a specialized knowledge, specialized skill sets. So earlier I mentioned that I switched being interviewed by people. I started being a business owner. And also Christina mentioned that when you switch career, be prepared for a pay cut. So all this actually, when we think about it, when we do like a, personal growth with specialized knowledge or skill sets, I once read a book, in this book, let me see if I can do annotation. So, the current word, so the type of people like who need, that's being needed, it's already now like a T-type people. Let me see if I can draw like T-type person. T-type person meaning that you have a broad knowledge, but have one very specialized area. The current word, maybe people are looking at a pie type of people. That means that you have a specialized area at the same time using your other time, like a spare time, your like TV time or social media time to develop certain other, other area. Like, it's, this deep, like for me, myself, I used to be a scientist. I use my time to develop like, in the money area. So I got interested in money. I started to learn about money, every aspect of it, including tax, investment, including like risk management and everything. So I make sure all the information is up to date and also actionable. So then I was listening to Christina. She was talking about IT. No matter what area, looking at the area, it's another lag. So this sometimes may not involve a pay cut because you use your spare time, potentially, possibly, right? Then all this increase your confidence. And all of this, you learn about it, know the thing about academically. We need to learn about these things and also see, look for possibilities how to apply. And all of this, so sometimes I hear often people telling me, oh, Dora, I'm not in that area. Like I believe probably Christina heard a lot of people, I don't have coding experience, right? I hear some people are interested in the money. They said, oh, I don't have finance background. So I tell people, do not let your circumstance define you. So currently in this world, there's so much, resources out there. Take the time, ask for support, ask for mentorship. Right. So I heard the word mentorship several times already. So that's also I would like to, emphasize on this word as well. So the second elements in professionalism I often think about is mindset. So mindset. Here we talk about, switch career. Several people talk about it. However, I still try to emphasize on long-term ideas, whether you are interested in a specific area, it doesn't matter how many jobs you change, but still in a certain area, think about long-term. So everything, in this word, have a mentality of, I can do it. Because, is there so much area, we can improve, right? And reading books or learning from others, being curious. I heard the word curiosity, right? Curiosity not applies to job interview, also in many areas. So how I switched field was that back in New York when I was in Cornell Medical College. So I realized that college cost was so expensive, right? Christina mentioned that, right? Master was very expensive. So when I had my first kid 12 years ago, I was curious about, the education funding. So I talked to a lot of financial advisors. So eventually I came up with came across with an advisor that she was so knowledgeable. Then after myself becoming her client, I was curious enough to ask, with all of this knowledge, can I learn from you? And fortunately, she said yes. So she mentored me. I took a lot of time and effort to learn from her, and she was also very generous to mentor me. So I learned a lot from her. And then gradually I work on the license at the same time, all of these things being done part-time. So it's, do not underestimate our part-time possibility. And then the third element, I try to be concise, is mission. So whatever we do, like mission and vision, we not only think about taking a job, taking a career, think about something like on the big grand scheme. I once, probably someone heard about the story about 3 bricklayers, right? So it's actually a real, someone may hear about it, someone may not. So this is actually based on a real story in the 17th century. So it's a very famous architect. He saw three bricklayers. They were building a wall. One of them was crunched, feel like very tired. The other one was half standing. And the third one was standing tall and working very hard. So he was asking, what are you doing? So the first one say, I'm the main bread earner in my family. I'm working hard to earn money to support my family. That's the first one he was talking. So the second one, he said, well, do you see that I'm building a wall? I'm building, a wall right now. So the third one, he said that I'm building a big cathedral to the Almighty. So you see, he take the mission, he take the vision. So for myself, when I started learn about money, I feel like a lot of people do not know about it, or they know very little about it, or they make mistakes. And they hurt their finance, either currently or in the future. I see so many people live paycheck by paycheck, or they pay too much taxes unnecessary. So this sort of become a mission. So this is sort of mission, a value, when need to be congruent. Congruent, I mean true to yourself and also to the people around you. You say something, you practice what you say, right? So that's sort of make things to a mission, right? So that's a third element. And with all these elements, I often tell people to be, to commit the time to think about all this, all of this, not just one aspect. So the fourth thing I often think about, a system. So whatever you do, there are some steps, systems, right? If you want to become IT professional, like Christina was talking about, think about what certificates you need to do, right? What type of computer language you need to learn, right? If you want to be in academia, right? So you probably want to, postdoc, right? PhD, postdoc, or what type of research program you want to do, right? So then break down the big goals into small steps. Like this morning, I was talking to a very young guy. He was curious about certain big goal, but he was confused. How can I achieve it? I was telling him that, if you think about a big mountain, high mountain, it's very formidable, right? But you break it down into little steps, then potentially you can get there, right? So also that's along time-wise. And for professional, what you do, break down into little elements. For myself, in the money, right? What people care about, right? Retirement, education, taxes, all those things, the breakdown. Then tell people, the area by area. At the same time, we still need to take a holistic approach. So what frustrated me quite a bit, 12 years ago, when I talked to a lot of financial professionals, that a lot of people, they take, they only focus their own thing. Like if I talk to some mutual fund managers, they only talk about mutual fund. They do not tell me about taxes, right? If I ask a tax professional how to handle investment, they say talk to a financial advisor, right? So, it's been in pieces. So here, system meaning you break down things, but at the same time, you can still piece them together, right? Then the fourth thing, the last thing, the fifth element, what I thought about professionalism is leadership. So some people, I think we'll have more speakers talking about it. Leadership is such an important area in everything. So I'm very passionate about leadership development. And I'm particularly passionate about mentoring. Some people, if they are interested into switch the career, not just taking jobs, at the same time doing business, like being business owner, whether part-time or full-time, it's such a great privilege in the U.S. I'm a new immigrant as well. You may notice that I have my accents. I'm not really good with public speaking, but I do believe leadership exists everywhere. And I take time to read books. So there's a very famous book by John Maxwell. I think these books really helped me a lot. It's a Leadership 101. It's very simple to read. Then when you think about leadership, what is it? So leadership is first, you know your way, and the second, you show the way. So know the way and show the way. And of course, know the way. And for me, it was okay. I can learn, but show the way, take the effort to step up the comfort zone. So presentation skill was my biggest challenge because I was scientist. The stereotype of scientist, stay in the lab, working with working with not people, right? But I do believe everything is, people are in a growth mindset, right? So it can be learned. And also I learned with public speaking presentation skill, use a PowerPoint, right? If it's hard to, it's feel like difficult to talk, right? Power, it has a power, it has a point, right? And also with language, I once learned from someone that for people who have a strong accent, it's actually a story. So someone had a very strong accent. Actually, for his message, people actually listen more carefully because they have to be careful to catch the points, right? So just accept what you are. So that's, sorry about it. Okay. I'll just take my sound off. So with the presentation and also, being nervous, that's my, when I started doing business, doing presentation, I got so nervous. Then I realized one of my mentors basically told me, switch your attention being on yourself. Do I do well? Do I present this fluently, concisely? Switch attention on yourself to the audience. The audience say that, what I tell can bring value to other people. Once you switch attention, then I realize, well, I feel like it's okay, So that's basically, the fifth element when I think about professionalism is a leadership. Do whatever you do, think about, can you actually teach this, what you do to other people? So here on the way. Okay. Yeah.
It is a great cool booklet because we have a lot of information to be shared from all of the speakers this time, sounds like. So we will definitely do that, Dora.
Along the way I read quite a bit of books. There's some of the list if someone wants to get it, okay. Thank you, Lin.
Thank you, Dora. I am trying to watch for the time, and I wanted to be sure our last two presenters, topics are also going to be brought up. So I hope, since I didn't see any hands up, it would be okay for us to go to the next one, which you already mentioned earlier. That was very important, which is effective networking and speaking, and then the leadership one. So let's go ahead and go to Sanyu and George, if you could please maybe touch on the networking and speaking a little bit more. Thank you. And then we will let Alice do the final touch on the leadership. Thank you.
Okay, how's that?
Yes, now we see it. Thank you.
All right. So real quick, like I said, I'm going to talk about networking today. Just three. I had to refine it to three topics just to make sure we meet the timeline. The three topics I'm going to talk about, based on my experience, obviously would be the benefits of networking, and those three have been establishing rapport, establishing connection, and also exchanging knowledge with the people you network with. Okay, so first thing first, with establishing rapport. When networking, this is probably one of your big objectives, is to establish rapport, and this can be done in so many ways, right? But make sure that when you do it, you're doing it what works for you and what's natural to you. All right, you don't need to be like, John Doe on the way he does it. Just be your natural self, and that's going to be it's going to work just fine. It's just a regular conversation. Approaching that person and introducing yourself will work just fine. One of the examples that I could provide for you is that not long ago, for instance, I went to a dental appointment with my kid, and upon checking in, I overheard this one lady who was also a patient in that dental office saying to the person behind the counter that she just got laid off, right? She came from Alaska. She moved actually from Alaska. She just got laid off, and she is in the communication business. So what I did right there and then is, well, after listening to her speak to the person behind the counter and just waiting for my chance to strike a conversation with her, I introduced myself, and I told her, hey, my name is George. I work for the state. I may be able to help you find your next career. We exchanged information. That's it. I gave her my information. I gave her my contact information, and she gave me mine. That was it. So it's a simple conversation. I established rapport. I told her what I can do for her, and she went on her way, and I stayed at the dental office. So again, building rapport is one of the good things that you can do for yourself when building your network. Okay. The second topic would be establishing connection. This, there's so many benefits of establishing connection. One of the things is that when you establish connections, it doesn't only benefit you, but also the people within your network. You don't know when one of your friends or the folks in your network would need your help or would need someone's help, right? So having that right resource for that person when that time comes could just mean a night and day. So having connections, building your network, and even diversifying your connection, you can't go wrong with that. You just have so many tools in your back pocket, so to speak. Another benefit of establishing connections is also, it could help us advance in our career, right? At the end of the day, every now and then it's who we know, right? So this person could be anyone, like your boss, your supervisor, your coworker, the person you sit with, in class, the person behind you when you buy your next Starbucks cup. So don't be afraid to connect with random people, especially when there's a chemistry there, right? Because we don't know when we're going to see that person again, or if we're going to see that person again. So I think striking conversation with that person right there and then, and maybe if you're comfortable enough, exchanging contact information would benefit you in the long run and that person as well. So it's vice versa. Last but not least would be the exchanging of knowledge. Learning a few more opinions and outlook and perspective about certain things never hurt, right? We want to say that we are very knowledgeable at this. Like what Dora said, she was open enough to learn about new things, about finance, about taxation, things like that. So opening your mind to other trends, other solutions, other ways of doing things will just make you a valuable resource, not just to yourself, but also to your team and also to those folks that you want to help or network with. So don't be afraid to seek out folks and learn from them, because at the end of the day, this also further strengthens your rapport when it comes to networking. One of the examples I can share with this is Sanyu. Sanyu has been a very great resource for me from the very start. She is very knowledgeable. Anytime I need help with our system, I go to her. So she is a very resourceful person for me. So at the end of the day, I encourage you to network. Go out there, go make the world know about you, make that connection, and have fun while you're doing at it. Don't forget to exchange life experience. Unfortunately, we're not here long enough to learn as much as we can, So learn from other people, learn through their experiences. Okay. So yeah. Any questions? I'm right here. I'm going to drop in my LinkedIn site also on the chat in case anyone wants to network.
Wonderful. That's a great start there. Sanyu, do you want to also say a few words now that she?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it'll take about 5 minutes. So
Okay.
George did not complete that story about the person he met at the dentist office. So I have a hard to fill communications position, and George was able to share this person's resume with me, and we're still in conversation about that. But that's the mutuality of networking. You never know who you will need, and you never know who you will help. And that's just being human, right? And it impacts your career as well. I know Dora did speak quite a bit about professionalism, and she mentioned some of these things about public speaking, so I will not belabor that. I think I have 6 points when it comes to public speaking. 1, prepare, research, and practice. So don't wing it. Go research the topic, the content. 2, know your audience. Is it a younger audience? Is it an older audience? What's the demographic of the audience? Or is it a general audience? What does that look like? Because then you can tweak the way you present to that audience. Number 3, which is really important, and which I think all our speakers here did, is establish credibility. Why are you speaking to me? What gives you the right to speak to me? So it may seem like bragging, but when you come and you share your name and your education and where you work and what your profession is and what your lived experience is, it gives you permission to take the podium and speak to these people. The other thing that I noticed that people said here, which is really important, is to acknowledge that there's other expertise in the room and to invite them to that conversation. So you're not speaking at them, you're having conversations and exchanging information and expertise. Then as you present, you want to appeal to the mind. In your audience, there are people that are logic people, that are data people. If you do not share facts and data and research, you will lose those kind of people. It will just be fluff, right? So you want to appeal to the mind. 2, you always want to appeal to the heart. You may have the data and the facts, but if you don't weave it with a story, people may forget that. So I did hear somebody about interviewing and making sure you're memorable. I think if I were to live this conversation today, I would remember George's story about going to the dentist and meeting somebody who was laid off. And because George had a connection with a recruiter, he didn't know this would happen, but somehow that came together. So please always include a story. The story appeals to the heart. 3, do not live without a call to action. How do you give people a call to action? Share contact information. Just now, George did share their LinkedIn information. That really tied in really well with his networking topic, right? So if people live this and we haven't shared next steps on action, then that piece is missing. So you appeal to the mind, you appeal to the heart, and you appeal to the hands. Action. Thank you. That's it.
Speaker Alice to share a little bit, and Lonnie, of course, too, if you'd like to share a little bit more about leadership, which is something our group have been doing a lot of events in the past. So please, Alice.
Oh my.
Thank you.
So,
thank you so much again, George and Sanyu, for your presentation.
Yes. Definitely, I have to agree with Lynn. A lot of, and everybody else, a lot of great content here. And with a few minutes left, what I could share is that leadership development is a journey. I think one of the best, and I have a lot of wonderful wisdom that I received from elders and from young people. And one of them is always take the opportunity to grow and develop. And I think previous speakers have already shared that. But in this, you know, I think that in leadership, you know, we want to do that self work and become, you know, our best selves so that we can lead collaboratively and joyfully with a commitment to our personal integrity and social justice for all. And for me, I lead an organization called Center for Ethical Leadership. And we really look at values-based leadership and really looking at it grounded in research of moral development. And with our moral development, there are really two things. It is to prevent harm and to offer aid. If the harm has happened, we offer aid. And if we as leaders and citizens of our planet Earth, Mother Earth, think of those two things, we would be able to resolve any and everything. We would be able to work with diverse perspectives and be open to working with diverse perspectives to develop creative solutions. And I think that is one of the tenets of leadership, is to ensure that we are serving those who are furthest from equity, those who are the disenfranchised. And when we lead in that lens and we invite those who are disenfranchised to co-create these solutions and what we can do to support, then, you know, we would be able to see a world where we can thrive together. With that, you know, I have this story of, I think when I was in my 30s, and I started working at this organization, and I am meeting everybody, and I find out that there are two people who just don't like each other. And I talked to several coworkers, and they're like, oh yeah, they don't like each other. There was like this incident that happened, she screamed, and they no longer work well together. And I'm like, wow, all these adults not helping these two, you know, resolve their relationship. And we know that relationship is core to all that we do. And so with these two individuals, I went and I got to know them better, build a relationship, got to know what they do, their function within the organization. I hear about one person, I hear about the other person, and then I start talking to them about the other to really help, you know, steward that the relationship so that they can, you know, and eventually, to speed up the story, they ended up resolving whatever it is that they had. And I kid you not, there was a city award for Service Person of the Year. And I kid you not, each one came to me and said, we should nominate so-and-so, we should nominate so-and-so. And they were able to work together and create beautiful things that impacted the people that the clientele that we serve. And that is leadership. It's like, if you see something that's happening and you're like, maybe we should have something to kind of resolve that, step up and step in and support. And in that development of yourself, you know, think about, you know, in Thurston County, conflict resolution, conflict management training, it's offered. You have a Thurston County Dispute Resolution Center. You know, reach out to them and say, hey, you know, I'd like to learn a little bit more on these skills. And these skills that you build and the practice that you have will help guide you as you go into your future and you're creating that workplace that you want to be in. And with that, I shall let, and it's joyful. It's joyful when you're able to be in an environment where everybody has restored relationships and healthy relationships. And so with that, I give it to my partner, Alani.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you all for contributing today. The only thing I have to say, and what I heard from all of you, is a quote that I use to guide the way I engage. I'm no longer in the workforce. I'm retired for a number of years and loving that part of my life. But the quote is that work done in a spirit of service to others is the highest form of work. And that is what I would like to think and what I heard today. So thank you very much for all that you've presented today.